It's 7:38. Quebec's mental health care institutions are making headlines these days. The Douglas's aging facilities flooded recently, and the MUHC cut its choir for psychiatry patients amidst budget cuts. Ella Amir has lots to say about that. She is the executive director of AMI Quebec. AMI Quebec is a nonprofit that supports families with relatives suffering from a mental illness. Good morning. Thanks for talking to us.
Good morning.
You issued a release saying that the end of the MUHC choir was just the latest victim of cuts to psychiatric patient services. What did you mean by that?
Well, I mean that there's probably a trend that didn't start today. You may recall the closure of the recovery transition program a year and a half ago or so. And I think that we are just continuing to see this trend, which is basically cutting services for the people who are probably most marginalized in our communities.
What consequences does cutting programs like a choir have on patients?
Well, I think that you want to speak with the patients, but it seems to me like, you said earlier that it takes a village. I think that this is exactly what they have done. I think that they created communities, a community where they support each other, where they mentor other people. This is, in the case of the RTP. But I think that, there is really a lot to say about how people can together can address their challenges and their difficulties. Mm-hmm. And I think that closing down the choir seems to me that we can, it may be a really myopic vision, because I think that we may very well see an increase in costs to mental health services if people are not going to find the resources that they usually use. You can expect maybe more relapses, more hospitalizations, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about long-term consequences to cuts like to a program like this.
Well, again, the closure of the RTP last year was, I think, really very unfortunate, because this was really a model of volunteer-based program where people became peers to people who have gone on the same journey but are not as advanced as they are. And I think that, the peer support model has been very popular in recent years, and for a very good reason, because I think that it's very often people who can attest to similar experience that can really have an impact on other people. So again, to say, for example, that there are other choirs in the community, indeed, but I think that if there are people who are getting together and feel that they are really sharing similar experiences, I think that there is some, a merit to this kind of program.
Right. Daybreak did reach out to the MUHC, and they did say that the choir's termination doesn't diminish the importance of the hospital confers to mental health, and they added that other music therapy services are available for patients.
Well, again, there are different programs. I'm really looking at the big picture. And as I say, I do see here a trend, and this is exactly what troubles me. There is no question that, the directive to close, to cut budgets come from Santé Québec. But I believe that it's the MUHC, actually, that makes the decision which programs to cut. And, I think that you probably have found out that, we are talking about really small amount of money. My understanding is that the choir requires $45,000, to keep it running. The RTP a year and a half ago required $60,000. This is a drop in the bucket, to close this kind of programs where, the impact is so much larger. It's just beyond me.
We talked about the Douglas in the last couple of days as well, and when the Douglas flooded a few days ago, Quebec Solidaire MNA Alejandra Zaga-Mendez told CBC that something like this would only happen to a mental health facility. What's your take?
Well, I don't know, but I think that maybe it's not a coincidence that, we are hearing more and more about mental health services. Look, I can tell you that there are, at the Jewish General Hospital and other hospitals, there are real challenges in the psychiatry ER. And I think that this may very well connected to the same kind of priorities that we are holding. So I don't know that it's necessarily a coincidence.
What kind of measures do you think the province needs to take to make sure Quebecers have access to mental health services?
It's a very good question. I would hope that maybe the psychiatry department will be, out in arms and just say this is not possible. But this really doesn't happen. So it really remains for us, community-based organizations, to do that. And I think that we are doing it because we feel that this is really our obligation. But I think that, it's the obligation of our community at large, not just of ourselves. I want to tell you that, when they closed down the RTP a year ago or so, I was thinking, maybe we can help to fund it. But then I say, no, this is not our responsibility. And if we do that, I think that we are getting, the public system off the hook. And I think that it's wrong. So we are not going to fund it. And I think that, we do have to find a way to keep it going.
That program you were talking about, that was cut last year, what is it specifically?
The program that closed down a year and a half ago or so? Well, this is a mentoring program of people with mental health and addiction issues who have been advanced on the journey of recovery, and they became mentors to people who have been not as advanced as they were. And they created a village, as I said before. They had a newsletter, they had the garden, they had workshops. They created a community. We are talking so much about relationship, about connection, about breaking isolation. Here you have it. So, we have such an amazing program that has been replicated elsewhere, by the way, and we are just we are just cutting it because of $60,000.
Before you go, we did get a statement from the Ministry of Health and Social Services. They say in part that they are aware of the needs in mental health care and point to just over $61 million more in investments compared to 2021. The statement goes on to say that money supports intervention and prevention through community organizations. How do you respond to that?
Well, it remains to be seen. The proof is in the pudding, not in declarations and announcements, but in actual, action on the ground.
We'll leave it there for today. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
That is MU Quebec's Executive Director, Ella Amir. And again, regarding the MUHC, they did send us a statement after we reached out to them. They said that the choir's termination does not diminish the importance of the hospital confers to mental health. They added that other music therapy services are available for patients. 7:46, Lita.